The Classics, Roblox's new event after the wide acclaimed event, The Hunt. I really need to start using that term better. I'm not going to make a huge history lesson because I'm going to do that in the Hunt video, but to make a long story short, Roblox events used to be prevalent until they stopped in 2020 due to Roblox becoming more corporate. However, 4 years later, Roblox brought back events with The Hunt. The Hunt had you going through games selected by Roblox in order to collect badges for items in the game's final egg. Thing is, Roblox kind of went insane by making the amount of badges total 100. As a result, The Hunt is a very lengthy experience that can take up to 24 hours plus for some to complete. That isn't even the biggest problem with The Hunt either, because we could talk about the lack of proper theming, the weird Robux things going on, and just how hit or miss so many of the games were. I could keep going, but I'm saving that conversation for my dedicated video on The Hunt. Point is, The Hunt had some good, but very glaring flaws at the same time. Flaws that people hoped would be ironed out if Roblox were to attempt another event in the future. Little did we know that the future would be less than 1 month and those flaws would not be fixed, if anything made worse. The Classics was released on May 23rd, themed around, get this, classic Roblox. First off, I want to start with the positives I had. For one, I'm glad they have an actual theme this time. The Hunt was all over the place with what it was representing, so I'm glad they stuck to something this time. The lobby is also a lot of fun, and you can tell the developers put a lot of effort into making sure it was good. Not only that, but I'm glad Roblox scaled down the amount of games they have this time. And that's all I really got for positives. When it comes to negatives, oh lord, where do I begin? You thought the 100 badges in the Hunt were bad? Well, at least it isn't 257. You see, the Classic takes a different approach by making it so that every game has 2 currencies, tokens and ticks. 10 ticks and 5 tokens are placed in each game respectively, with each counting as their own badge and every game having different methods of gaining them. Thing is, these methods range from okay to boring to straight up annoying. Okay, it's annoying to complete, sure, but at least you have a month to get all the badges like the Hunt, right? Wrong. For some reason, Roblox decided to make the event last for 5 days. The biggest salt in the wound because there is basically no taking your time unlike the Hunt. You need to get there and do everything day 1 if you want to 100% it. There's a whole lot more I can say, but I want to save those for later. Right now, I want to go through every game in the Classics and give my honest thoughts on them as well as rank them. Our tiers are pretty good, alright, nothing special, annoying, and bottom of the barrel, god awful, never cook again. I'm going to be doing the ranking based on 3 factors. What did I think of the Tix missions? What did I think of the token missions? And what did I think of the game overall? I'm doing this to differentiate each quest in their own way to make it easier for myself overall to rank. Without further ado, let's get into the Classics.
Fashion? And fame?
So Roblox decided to enter in the game where its quest in the previous event was to collect 50 bunnies running around in a dressing room. I think that says it all. Collecting the ticks is whatever. It's basically a fetch quest made more tolerable because of how small the map is compared to every game. Now, the tokens on the other hand are more interesting because it doesn't even take place in Dress to Impress. You go through this portal and you're taken to this aesthetic obby that basically has studs slapped all over it to give you the most surface level classic feeling ever. The obby isn't anything to write home about either. It's fine and you get the tokens the further you progress. So overall, a pretty meh quest. Not horrible, but not exactly memorable in any way. Ticks and tokens go into nothing special, with Dress to Impress following suit. In the Hunt, Adopt Me had these obbies you had to play in order to get the badge. So what does the Classics do? Do we get some classic obbies? Some studs or anything? No. We raise a teapot. Personally, I've never played Adopt Me long enough to ever raise an egg, so I mean it when I say this. Is raising eggs this annoying every time? I swear to god, this game was making me hope my own child would start dying from dehydration and hunger so I could get the stupid tokens quicker.
Oh, I want to go to the beach party.
You are 10! You probably noticed I haven't mentioned ticks yet because once more, it's literally nothing to write home about. Almost every game has the same level of enjoyment when it comes to getting the ticks because nearly every game is a collectathon. Something I loved in the Hunt. Anyways, ticks and nothing special, tokens and annoying, and Adopt Me in general annoying. Don't call CPS, please.
Astray ballin', yo!
Blade Ball is one of the weirdest games in the Classics purely from how it's set up. For the ticks, you need to find each in their respective 10 maps are located in. Sounds straightforward, right? Well, for some reason, Blade Ball has god-awful spawn rates for maps depending on the server. In my first recordings for Blade Ball, I got only one classic map despite playing for 30 minutes, but after I switched to a smaller server, I was suddenly getting the maps like every round. I'm not sure if this was just an issue on my end, but I want you guys to let me know. Did you have to deal with this too? Anyways, let's talk about the tokens. To get the tokens, you need to complete a bunch of quests, and it's not really anything worthwhile to talk about. It's kind of just standard playing the game stuff, with the only annoying quest being to get all the ticks, considering how it depends on luck. Alright, that's the ticks and tokens out of the way. What I really want to talk about is the boss against 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. Okay, I'm just gonna call him 1 times because that's a mouthful. Every 4 rounds, there's a boss against 1 times that I really ended up liking. It takes a creative angle, and it's pretty engaging with how 1 times uses admin commands to alter the battle arena, control players, jail them, and send missiles their way. Basically just being a complete menace. It was fun not knowing what he would do next and provided a bit of an actual challenge. Not only that, but it was better than a certain other thing I'm going to get to eventually. To me, this boss encapsulated that modern take on classic Roblox thing that Roblox was trying to push with this event. Ticks an annoying tier, tokens and nothing special, and Blade Ball in general annoying. The boss fight saved this game from the bottom tier, I'll tell you that.
I'm a fraud.
You ever see something that tries hard to be something it's not? That's Livetopia with the classics. I genuinely don't think there is a single thing in this quest that has to do with classic Roblox in any way. Just to Impress had that weird obby, but at least it's somewhat tried even if it wasn't great. Livetopia just has you deliver for a place called the Classic Delivery Corp. So retro. Speaking of delivery, you know, there's also this really funny other Roblox game that had delivery aspects in it that could be considered a classic, you know, the type of games you didn't include for some reason. Excuse me, it's a modern take on classic Roblox that makes it completely fine. Sorry. Ran aside, how is it gameplay wise? Well, it's nothing special either. I genuinely forgot that this game was in the event until I started scripting for this video. That's how forgettable it is. Everyone goes into the nothing special tier. Moving on.
The world is a fucking bitch. Even Cooking Mama.
Another game returning from the hunt. We got Restaurant Tycoon 2. Once again, the ticks collecting around the map was fine. It was fine. The token quest is the real standout here. Literally. You need to serve 150 customers to get all 5 tokens, and it's just as engaging as it sounds. Another issue I've yet to touch on in the classics is how for some games, depending on how far in you are, it either takes forever or goes by quickly. At least Restaurant Tycoon is somewhat better in this regard because it's fast to progress in, and if you really get lazy, you can sacrifice good interior design for maximum profit. Aside from that, it's really just a nothing special game for the event. I'm putting everything in the nothing special tier once again. Alright, so apologies in advance, but I have to use footage that isn't my own for this segment of the video, so that's why the quality is actually consistent for once. The reason for this is because while I did record my experience in the Dusty Trip, a certain game I'm going to talk about next decided to make my computer crash while I was still recording, so I lost all my footage. I'll get to ripping that game apart for reasons later, but right now I want to focus on Dusty Trip. I think this is the first game so far that I feel actually understood the assignment and went all out for this event, kind of like Doors So Retro Edition. It combines aspects of the original game with the aesthetic of classic Roblox, and it makes for an enjoyable time. I want to specifically talk about the tokens though, because they're connected to the best part of the game in my opinion. For every 2,000 miles leading up to 10k, you need to complete a challenge in order to get the token for each. These were kind of fun surprisingly, and I thought they did a good job, especially with the final boss against 1 times. Overall, I feel like this was the first game to strike a genuinely good balance between challenging and simple, and it made for a fun time. Ticks was alright, but I'm putting the tokens and Dusty Trip into pretty good tier. I can't believe that of every game to include, Roblox decided on this one. I already had beef with this game when it crashed my computer and I lost all my footage, but remember that really funny thing I mentioned earlier about how some games have an issue where they require you to have progress prior or they take forever? Well, look no further than this game. On the surface, it seems fine for newcomers. You get 1 unit, alright, nothing great, but then you realize one of the requirements is to beat medium mode, which is recommended with a unit past rare, which means you need to play multiple rounds of easy mode in order to get enough coins to open a crate and pray you get a unit past rare. Rounds don't take 10 minutes either, they can take around 20 depending on how your units are. So in other words, you gotta grind. And I was not having it, so I messaged Schnoodles, who had already finished the quest before me, and asked to borrow the units they managed to get. They agreed, and I breezed past this game after 40 minutes or so. Schnoodles, if you're watching this, Thank you, good God. It's really interesting to me how Roblox shows the two games with the most nothing burger quests in the hunt, and they went in completely different directions. Dress to Impress is one of the easiest in the classics, and Tower Defense is a time-wasting grind fest. One Time shows up again, he's got a cool transformation, I guess, but that's not really saving the game in any way for me. God awful Never Cook again for both the tokens in the game, while Tix goes in annoying. Who made the decisions for this game's quest? Because I really want to know what was going through your head. Driving Empire is one of the worst examples of the classics quest dragging the fuck on. To get every token, you need to get 500 points in the classics area. How do you get the points, you ask? By doing the same tasks repeatedly with no difference. I chose to do the races since it was probably easier and you got more points doing it with a friend server, so I forced Rennie to join and the points were still pretty shit. 23 for each race. Amazing. Oh, but don't worry, if you want to speed it up, you can just pay money to double it, but even then you still need to do the stupid race multiple times. This quest is so unashamedly a way to maximize people playing for long periods and incentivizing people to spend money. Then again, that's really the classics as a whole, but I'll get into that later. For now, Tix goes into alright, while tokens in the game itself go into god-awful Never Cook again. Also, I'm sorry, Rennie. I will pay you tremendously.
I can't wait for the video to drop. It's gonna be so sick.
Clip It is another newcomer, and in this game, you record Roblox TikToks. At this point, I'm not even fazed by the weird game decisions. Okay, maybe I'm being a little too harsh because I kind of like the setup for this one. Find all the ticks in this game. You need to explore the different maps. Why they didn't just relegate them to being the classic themed area? I don't know. Do I look like a Roblox developer to you? Anyways, it's okay. About the same as the other Ticks quests. I'm starting to regret making Ticks its own category because nearly every game has the same way of attaining it, so there's really nothing to talk about. Anyways, let's get to the tokens. Yay. To get the tokens, you need to find these people scattered around the different maps and do the equivalent of paparazzi, invading their personal space, whatever you see fit. I'll admit, there's some clever hiding spots for these guys, especially one times where we have to do this whole thing with the camera to find him. But other than that, it's kind of just whatever. It is one of those games that people play just for an easy way to get ticks and tokens and nothing else. I don't think there is a single Roblox user out there that has genuinely said, yeah, I think Clip It has the best quest in the classics. For that, this game's getting the nothing special triple combo.
You like jazz?
Beeswarm Sim, yet another newcomer and one with a really good concept for a quest in the hunt. Fending off your hive with 4 other players against classic Roblox enemies while upgrading using bricks sounds fun. Notice where I said concept, because the thing about this game is, while it does sound pretty sound on paper, you know, defending yourself and buying stuff with bricks, if you don't have a good amount of progress in the base game, you're kind of fucked. The bees and upgrades you have in the main game carry over to the challenge, so as a result, you and another player could be on completely different wavelengths because better bees do more damage and make honey faster, which you can't exactly do as good as a new player. I appreciate the developers at least adding some alternatives if you don't have progress, but it really doesn't hold up and you are not making it. Your best bet if you're new to the game is to just have people who do have progress carry you while you defend primarily. Beeswarm Sim isn't as bad as Toilet Tower Defense in this regard, but it's still pretty annoying regardless, even if I do like the challenge. I think of all the grindy games, it's the best, but it drags down a little for that reason, so I'll put it in alright tier along with the tokens. As for ticks, I'll put it in nothing special.
I don't need no sleep. Sleep is for the weak.
When I was scrolling through Twitter, I saw people bringing up a challenge with penguins and how hard it was. So I asked Shinoz about it, who was doing the quest like I was, and they said that it was not only Bedwars' quest, but just as bad as people were saying. So after finishing Bed Wars, do I agree with the sentiment? Yes and no. Let's start off with the ticks. It's basically the same old, run around fighting in the lobbies, you get the badges, whatever. The tokens are my main focus here. To get the tokens, you need to complete 10 waves protecting your bed against penguins who ramp up in difficulty with every wave. Now, when I tell you these penguins are feral, I mean it. They come in huge packs, and if you aren't ready or actively changing the bed defense, then you are completely screwed. Having 5 teammates doesn't make it any better either, because if you're uncoordinated with them, which you most likely will be if you're playing solo, there is a huge likelihood you're not winning. Biggest example of this is when during my first recording session, I spent more than 3 hours on this game solo and I was making no progress at finishing. So the next day, I asked Shinoz if they wanted to try beating it with me and they agreed. We beat it on the first try. This quest is really dependent on if you have good teammates or not, because I actually had fun when I had competent teammates compared to playing solo where I was contemplating to so retro myself. Overall, a mixed bag and a downgrade from the hunt in my opinion. Tix goes into nothing special while tokens and Bed Wars in general go into nothing special.
Hey,
I got a Glock in my Rari.
In the hunt, Arsenal had a good badge, so do they continue the record here? I'd say yeah. Once again, it's like Dusty Trip where they combine the aspects of the classic aesthetic with their game design, and it ends up as a fun time, primarily because it's original and not a fetch quest. Back on topic, I like the setup for this game. I thought the combat was varied, and I enjoyed the small story that plays out as we run around fending for our lives in this area. It's just a fun quest overall, minus that stupid flood escape part because the physics were in fact physicsing. Moving on, to get the tokens in this game, you need to replay the quest but with different challenges. Finding the ticks around the map, speedrunning, using only the base gun, and playing solo are the main highlights. Though less playing solo in the base gun because I wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and show them both in my first run. It was painful, but it saved me time, so who cares. Speedrunning was the real interesting one here and took me a couple tries to get used to. Thankfully the time isn't tight, so you can make a couple mistakes on the way there, which is why I have personal beef with this stupid fucking parkour because I narrowly lost. Overall, a nice time, with the tokens and ticks going alright, while the game itself goes into pretty good.
Look around you, imagine. Dragons.
Dragon Empire? We're like, dragging these nuts against your face. Dragon on your quest. Getting the ticks in this game is about the same as any other, except this time it somewhat connects to the tokens. To get all the tokens in this quest, you need to find these so retro eggs scattered across the map, and by collecting enough niche area, you get the token. Just after one time summons a meteor to crash into the earth. What in the Final Fantasy VII? Personally, I think the exploration in this game kind of drags on with everything looking nearly the same, and it's no secret I'm not a fan of these collectathon type games. Doesn't help they're pulling a driving empire and trying to profit with an easy option for Robux that's not even worth it considering you can just watch a video detailing where the eggs are. I don't have anything else to say. It's kind of just a meh game. Not as bad as some of the others, but I wouldn't call it good either. For that, I'll put the game tokens and ticks into nothing special. If I could sum up this game in one example, I'd say, Mom, can we have Arsenal Quest at home? No, Jimmy, we have the Arsenal Quest at home. The Arsenal Quest at home. Okay, I'm being a little too harsh because I thought it was okay. You search for ticks around the maps and okay, I'm just going to stop bringing it up from here because I assure you, you're not missing out on anything. To get the tokens, you need to kill people a certain amount of times with the weapon you're given. Or you can just off yourself too, that counts. Since I got nothing better to say, I'm just gonna rank every weapon. Last place, the slingshot. The range on this thing was really bad and I have no idea when or why it works the way it does. Fourth place, the bomb. Didn't get to use it properly because I was too busy blowing up. Third place, the dodgeball. I thought it had some pretty good control and I appreciate the amount you're given, but the damage holds it back. Second place, the bazooka. You can get some pretty cool kills and I'm sad I wasn't recording when I managed to get a 5-way kill. However, it's got the flaw of repeated offing yourself, so second it is. Finally, in first place, we got the paintball gun, the funnest weapon to use in my opinion, for its damage and range being a good compromise unlike the others. For that, I got nothing else to say about Gunfight Arena. The ticks goes in nothing special, while the tokens and game itself go into alright. Our last chosen game in the classics is Tower Defense Sim. Did we end off on a bang, or with a whimper? Well, I'd say we ended the games pretty good. In TDS, you're tasked with playing 5 different levels with ranging difficulty for each token, and the developers were actually nice enough to give you preset units for each challenge, which I can't say the same for another game. These are actually somewhat challenging and require you to do some thinking about where you place your units and how you want to spend the money you get. Also, I enjoy the mini-bosses at the end of every difficulty, primarily because it just shows how much of a fraud Core Blocks really is. From main villain of the last event to a lackey of the new one is some crazy behavior. Get up, Core Blocks! Ticks and nothing special, while TDS and tokens go into pretty good. With that, we are done with the games. Right?
My life is like a video game.
What, you thought I wasn't going to talk about the hub? This technically counts as a game considering it has 43 badges of its own, so for that reason, I'm just going to go over the important ones like the quest, and I'll throw some others in. Ready for the lightning round? Let's go! Character Doors, a cute callback to those Guess the Character games. Alright tier. Map Explorer, literally just exploring the entire map, nothing special. Cart Ride, I have no idea how they f***ed the physics so bad, god awful. Buried Treasure, it was fine, not really much to go off aside from that, nothing special. Roblox Racing, better than the Natural Disaster Survival card, so we'll give it that. Alright tier. Obby of Glory, the first badge I got in the game and a decent enough obby. Alright tier. Obby of Doom, I tried to cheat it, but Roblox is smart for once. Alright tier. Rocket Secret, basically just blowing up a rocket and giving people a firearm to be annoying for the rest of the event. Nothing special. In the Clouds, I have no idea how the hell people found this with no guide. God awful tier. Pot of Gold, a cute callback to the old dressing room that I remember vividly. Biased for it, but alright tier. Secret Cafe, performing witchcraft like it's my everyday life. Nothing special. Ye old Game Pass, it was cute to have have you put on a specific shirt in order to get into the area. Alright tier. And lastly, capture the flag. No real thoughts on walking back and forth. Nothing special. Alright, that's all the quests I want to cover in quick succession. The clothing and item related quests don't really have anything worth discussing, so they all go into nothing special. Now what I really want to move on to is these three. The banes of my existence. To get each one, you need to meet a Roblox star creator, a developer, and a Roblox moderator. For each badge, you get a hat to go along with it, and it sounds cute, you know, running into someone and getting a hat badge for free, fun. Until you know the suffering I had to go through to get these. Developers would announce going into servers, sure, but these servers would feel so fast, and the amount of time you had to wait for each was terrible. In total, I waited 6 hours plus to get all these badges, 4 hours alone for the cake top hat, and if that isn't dedication, I don't know what is. Thank you to these people getting the hats. Your association is greatly appreciated. Now, I want to get into what happened on the final day of the event, because I heard rumors that there was going to be some big finale with the Tix machine. This thing right here I didn't bring up yet for some reason. So did something happen? Well, yeah. I was there with Schnoodles, who I accidentally knocked into a portal and made miss it, sorry. And it exploded with the duck statue in the middle of spawn opening up to reveal a secret entryway. So I was the one to open it because I'm just so awesome. And there we were, met with a blade, which we pulled out and fought against the true final boss of the classics. 1 × 1 × 1 × 1. Yeah, full name, we're going there. After everything, this was what it all led up to. The most underwhelming final boss to ever final boss. Listen, I wasn't expecting the biggest, most badass fight of my entire life, but even I can admit this was such a letdown. Sure, it replicates classic Roblox fights well or something, but we didn't even get any build up or anything. We were kind of just plopped into it and yeah, that's it. He doesn't even have a death scene or anything. He just kind of dies and you're thrown to the credits, which is like, see you next time, without even earning a badge or a hat or anything, I might add. It was such an anticlimactic ending, but I guess I can't complain because at least this time we got an ending, huh? I think what really rubs salt in the wound though is the fact that they chose to put this sword up as the item of the day. Oh yeah, you did all that? Cool, now how about you buy the 40,000 Robux sword? And with that, it's time to circle back to the point I made earlier about Roblox being money hungry. The hunt had its Robux spending, don't get me wrong, especially with making fraud blocks over here 29,000. But it is nowhere near as bad as the classics. For the low price of 38,000 Robux, you can buy these 2 ugly outfits that give nothing but a reminder of your awful spending choices. And the sword? Oh man, the same hour it was dropped, people made fake versions for UGC. And now, I'm just gonna be honest here. If you've been paying attention to my badge count in the corner, it's not 257. It's 253 because I didn't buy the gold track and I wasn't going to if I had to spend a Robux for some superficial 100% that doesn't even do anything, I might add. There is no reason to force yourself to finish it, and I'm saying this as someone who did everything this event has to offer. Don't bother. So overall, what did I think of the classics? I think the classics is in this weird middle ground where I liked some parts of it, but at the same time the issues it had were very apparent and just continued to snowball on top of one another. If we use the hunt as a comparison point, I think it's better and worse in different areas. Like I said, I'm glad they chose to give this event more personality, but at the same time they stripped away things that made the hunt somewhat bearable. For one, making the deadline 5 days was a terrible decision because I am now one of 13,000 people who have actually completed every badge. I feel like I am on a list somewhere. Compare that to the hunt where over 350,000 people managed to get the final egg because you had a month to finish every game. Shortening the runtime was not a good idea and I don't understand what was the thought behind it. Maybe it was to make sure as little people as possible 100%ed it, and you know, for that Roblox would be real because there is little to no incentive to finish this 100%. Sure, the ticks and tokens are apparently going to be used for something in the future, but do we even have the guarantee it's going to be worth it? Maybe I'll eat my words in the future and they'll release the most badass thing possible, but right now, I genuinely don't care.
You are dumb, unattractive, overweight, unworthy, untalented.
There was a lot of dumb decisions made and you'd think they'd learn after the hunt, but nope. In other words, take your time. Well, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed me talking about block game for however long this video was. I'm still working on the hunt video, but it's taking some time because of how it's formatted and because, well, it's 100 games. Give me a break, please. Anyways, have a good day. Bye bye.
Sunday morning.